Memory is a skill, not a special gift. Let me repeat that. Memory is a skill. That means you can stop saying things such as, I'm bad with names, or I'm bad at memorizing things. You aren't. You just never learned the skill. You can also stop saying things like, oh, that person is good at memorizing things because he has a photographic memory. Photographic memory is a myth. People who claim to have a photographic memory are actually using the same methods we'll talk about in this video, even if they're doing that unconsciously. What you have to do in each of the methods we'll talk about is to bring information to life. I'm sure you've experienced this before. You're reading something, and only when you reach the bottom of the page, you realize you have no idea what you just read. This happens because you never brought the information to life. If you're reading a story and you can see it as if it were a movie in your mind, you'll still remember what you've read 5 or 50 pages ahead. You've used your creativity and your imagination, so you don't need to make a huge effort to remember. So that's what you need to do to remember things, be it a page of a textbook or your shopping list. Bring that information to life. Here's how to do that. First, you have to sense it. Use all of your senses to think of that information. For example, if you want to remember an orange, use all your senses to experience an orange. Think of the vibrant color, the sweet but sour taste, the smell, etc. The second thing you need to do is to exaggerate it. It's easier to remember a giant talking orange than to remember an ordinary one. Think of something illogical. Funny and ridiculous things are easier to remember. Finally, energize it. Now give this orange some action. Isn't a movie more memorable than a slide presentation? If the orange is still, it won't be as easy to remember it as it would be if the orange suddenly started to walk and talk. What I mean is, make the images in your mind more vivid and interesting. You can use these principles to remember basically anything, and all the techniques we'll learn here are based on these 3 principles that we just mentioned: sensing, exaggerating, and energizing. Here's another example. Think of a foreign word. Let's suppose you're trying to learn how to speak Portuguese, and you found out that father in Portuguese is pai. Does pai sound like any word in English? The easiest one you can think of is pie. So if you can think of your father eating a very big piece of pie, try to make that image funny and energized, and you'll never forget it. Creating and connecting is nothing new. This is how your memory works all the time, actually. It connects the things you don't know with the things you know, so they start to make sense to you. What you're doing here is nothing unnatural. You're just enhancing your nature. Now we'll see a few methods that you can use to put those ideas into practice. Method number 1. Use your car to remember. Think of your car. Now imagine you're squeezing a big apple into the front license plate, then stabbing a carrot into the hood. Now open the door and sit in the driver's seat. Oops, you didn't notice you were sitting on strawberries. What a mess. When you look at the passenger seat, there's a person that you don't like sitting there, so you start throwing eggs at him or her. Feeling irritated, you get out of your car, and that's when you notice a huge orange on your roof. Wait, what is this smell? It's coming from the trunk. You open the trunk and it's full of fish. There's also broccoli in the tailpipe, and the tires are made out of sweet potatoes. Go through your car, beginning to end, and see if you can remember all the vegetables and fruit. Remember, you have to sense, exaggerate, and energize. Watch this part of the video again if you need to. By the way, you've just memorized the names of 8 superfoods that keep your mind efficient. Make sure to add them to your diet. What you just did was organize what otherwise seemed like random information so that your mind finds connections between them. You can use this technique to remember anything, from your shopping list to the countries of South America. It works well with lists, but also with presentations. For example, When you're making a PowerPoint presentation, instead of having to look at the slides or fill it with long pieces of text so that you remember what you have to say and in which order, you can summarize the content in topics and associate each topic with an image. You can associate the topic budget with a wallet, for example, and picture yourself opening your trunk and finding your wallet there. By having an image for each topic and placing them in the mental image of your car, you'll remember the topics easily